Welcome to Health IQ, a podcast from the Quay County Health Council. In this podcast, we are exploring a variety of health topics that affect our community and probably yours too. We are not professional podcasters, but volunteers that have a passion for wellness. We will share practical ideas and resources for people with limited access to services, and we have some fun tips to help you and your family stay healthy and well. Increase your health IQ as you listen to our members as they talk and share with experts and others about the health matters that matter to you.
Dinner Dash, Episode 6, Meal Prep in a Flash.
Welcome to this episode of Health IQ. Today's episode is going to be of special interest to our busy families and moms. This is the time of year in our county when everybody gets into the spring sports or the 4-H practices, and we get out of work, we pick up our kids, we go to the parks, we go to the fairgrounds, and we're there till 7 o'clock at night, and we get home, and we have to face that hangry crowd of kids and spouses who want something to eat. Mm-hmm. So we resort to fast food sometimes, but we know that fast food is expensive.
Yeah.
And not probably is very healthy, so it's okay once in a while. So today I thought we could talk a little bit about how we were able to survive that time as raising our kids to help Annie out as she's going to be in that time pretty soon.
As we're starting the T-ball.
And let you know that be sure to follow our blog on our QC Health Council website, because we are going to put some of our recipes up too. So anyway, that's what I thought we would talk about today. I thought it'd be fun. And so I thought we'd start with Rochelle. She had it probably the hardest because she was 40 miles from a grocery store, 4 kids and a husband, and no restaurants.
No restaurants.
So what did you do?
No convenience store.
Yeah.
So just having some things in the pantry that are basic staples for many people, not all. Some pasta, some canned, someone's mentioned canned chicken, so maybe that'll be a tip for somebody. Let's see, frozen meat, frozen chicken or ground beef. Ground beef is real easy to pull out in the morning and then think about, I could make tacos or spaghetti or something like that. Real easy. By the time you get home, you don't want to leave it sitting out, but maybe put it in the refrigerator to let it thaw. And let's see, trying to think pantry. Box mixes like cornbread mix, are handy to have. You can make cornbread pie or something like that. Mm-hmm. We're not a huge fan of canned vegetables, but frozen vegetables, we prefer those. So having some of those on hand, and frozen potatoes are good, like tater tots, French fries, things like that. You can pair and make casseroles or just do quick, burgers or some kind of a sandwich and some fries. That's real easy. We did that often. So that's kind of some of the things
you sort of did.
Yeah. And always having, your basic like oil, your cooking oil, your some kind of canned milk is handy to have. You can make things like Alfredo sauce or having canned Alfredo sauce or spaghetti sauce, tomatoes, those kind of basic.
I think you were saying
what I kind of consider basic items.
Saying
beans.
Earlier, one of your basic food items was spaghetti.
Yeah. Yeah, spaghetti is a really
a family
quick,
favorite.
Yeah, simple, easy family favorite.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who cooked a lot of spaghetti to the point that her husband was like, we're having spaghetti again. So she got out a bottle of wine. So I was like, sparkling juice and so a little wine might cure the spaghetti blues.
Yeah. We had spaghetti a lot too, and I can remember my husband saying, could we not have spaghetti this week? Yeah. But yeah, and it's a really easy, quick meal. that spaghetti. Whether you make the sauce yourself or buy a jar.
And then you can change up your sauce. So maybe it has more vegetables one time and more meat sauce the other time. And then it's still spaghetti, but it's not really spaghetti.
And then you just change the name of it because then
Yes.
your family gets they know that it's something different because you changed the name. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I went to somebody's house and they had even chopped up carrots and put in their spaghetti. And I had never had carrots in my spaghetti.
Yeah.
But I thought, what a great way to get carrots in.
Yeah, I like to do zucchini. Saute it a little bit, throw it in there.
So then it's not spaghetti. It's you gotta make a fancy name.
It's almost like a ratatouille.
There you go.
So Joyce, I know that you were at home more than maybe the rest of us, but you were busy because you had to make curriculum for 3 girls as you were homeschooling them and get them to all their activities. So what were some of your go-tos?
We did a lot of boxed meals. And then as I grew into that a little bit more, I was like, you know what? I can do these myself by adding rice and flavoring it however I want to. And so that was kind of an eye-opener time for me that, I can do my own flavorings and come up with my own box meal. And I think that was also maybe something that was in one of the extension newsletters that made me think, oh yeah, this would be really easy to do. And so that was one thing. Another thing that I did and still do is I use canned meats. So canned chicken was always in my cupboard, and I would drain my water and you got to break it up because it really doesn't look that appealing, and season it and brown it up a little bit. And then nobody knows, of all the chicken things. And I think my girls still do that today. We would do just a pot of beans. We would love that with some butter and a little Tabasco and a tortilla on the side, and something that was just really simple that everybody loved. Something I really like making a lot is soup, because you can make anything into soup. Annie's mom actually did a cabbage rolls, and I loved those cabbage rolls. But it was so much work because you had to blanch the cabbage, you had to make the meat and the rice, you had to do the sauce. And so I came up with a casserole and a soup that was based off of her delicious recipe. And so I think sometimes you just have to have some freedom to say, okay, we're going to make something, and have all the things that are good, that everybody loves, and then put it together. And we did that so often that they would say, well, what is this? And we would make up our own names for whatever the meal was. And they would show up in our rotation of food requests. And so, I think that's important to have it be a little bit of fun, to have some freedom when you're cooking. It doesn't have to follow a prescribed recipe. If you like the basics of it, use it, and then put in the flavorings that you like. If you like Italian flavorings, well, then switch out the Mexican flavorings and put in Italian, and just make it your own recipe.
Yeah, I agree. Lots of things. I was thinking there, I used to make up recipes at the extension office and have the kids name them. It's like, oh, well, this, we don't have that ingredient, so we'll just make this ingredient, and we make up a recipe, and what do you guys want to call it?
Yeah.
So it's sort of a fun way to do it. So Annie, I know that you have a struggle because you have a really picky eater, and I also had a very picky eater. So what are some of the things that you do to get him to eat?
So some of the things I do to get Hollis to eat, we've tried naming things different names, and that's helped. He didn't like grilled cheeses because we didn't know what that was, so we weren't going to eat it. So we called it a Peppa Pig sandwich. Thanks to his aunt called it a Peppa Pig sandwich. We'll give her credit. And so now he eats Peppa Pig sandwiches. And so now he wouldn't eat quesadillas. So we're like, well, it's a tortilla Peppa Pig. And now we eat tortilla Peppa Pigs. And so he's just very picky. I think it's more mind over matter with him a lot. I did see something the other day about pureeing your vegetables to kind of get your kids to eat them if they have a texture issue. So I'm starting to think his is a texture issue because I can give him a puree and he'll eat it. He loves fruit, thankfully. So we do get some nutrition through fruit and cucumbers because that's his only vegetable that he'll eat. But it is a struggle to get him to eat things. But I had my best friend's mom told me, she's like, Marie was really picky when she was little. This was years before I had kids. She's like, Marie was really picky. And she's like, if she found something she liked to eat, that's what I fed her, because the struggle, like she was so small and so skinny. I just thought, as long as she eats something. And at the time, I'm like, no, you should have like pushed her harder. And now that I have a picky eater, you know, I'm like,
You can only push them so far.
you can only push them so far. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's, you know, you fight the fight, and some days you're just like, just eat something.
Yeah, I understand that. I had gone to a training where they said, you just don't make any other food. You only serve that, and they will learn to eat it if you make them go to bed hungry. And my kid could outlast me on going to bed hungry for days.
Never knew.
And so I always tried to have something at the meal. And fortunately, he would drink milk. So there was always milk. And maybe something else that he would eat, even if it was the piece of bread or something. So there was a little bit more. So I had, trying to save money, and I had, busy schedule. I worked a lot of nights. And so one day I was reading something, and I read about a big calendar. And so that was our solution. I bought this magnet thing that sticks to the refrigerator, and it holds this big calendar. And the big calendar has the big squares and lines, and I would schedule everybody's stuff that everybody had. And then at the bottom of every day, I would actually look on Friday to see what was on sale at the grocery store. I would plan the week and make sure there was something everybody liked during the week. So everybody had a good meal. And then make my grocery list based on what I had and, what was on sale and what I needed to go to the grocery store on Saturday. And then I did a lot of prep ahead of time. And I laugh because my daughter, and she works a job now where
Lots of hours.
She works Graves this month, and there are no places to get lunch at midnight or 1 a.m. So she does a lot of meal preps, but she even meal preps during the day, and she prepares all her food up for the week. But probably because we did that at home. We cut vegetables up. We had everything ready. So if we were doing a stir fry, everything was cut and we stir fried it. And I would spend Sundays doing that, or batch cooking, where I cooked up a bunch of food and put it in the freezer. And if I was home for a home meal, it was always a double recipe of something we made. So we would have leftovers, and then we would use those leftovers for lunch
The next day.
Yeah.
and try to always make sure we had
Let's see, I
plenty.
think I've been through seasons of those things. And then I kind of gets old and I do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't always stick to the same thing all the time.
But so then I got into
Same
this thing
methods.
where I'm bored, right? So then I would try to plan 2 new recipes a month
Oh.
that we had not tried. Yeah, so
That's good.
that
Then it's
added
not
to-
overwhelming. Like,
Yeah.
But you're trying to do too many new things.
So I would find a recipe I wanted to try, and I would stick it to the fridge. And then I would plan that in and make sure I had the ingredients. So that was another way we got meals prepared. And if you had your food prepped, you could do a quick skillet meal. And skillet meals were our go-to, especially in the busy times and in the summer, because I didn't ever want to turn on that oven.
Yeah. Or you're out, like, because it's light out and it's nice. You're like out doing stuff outside.
Yeah.
But then you finally come in and you're like, ooh, we're starving.
Yeah.
And it's late.
And it's 9 o'clock because the sun just went down.
The crock pot and instant pot have saved me on that. So I have a couple of recipes I will probably like to post.
Yeah.
I love my Instapot.
Yeah, they make it, even when something's frozen, you can put it in the Instant Pot and
It still have some.
done pretty quickly. Like some
I
chicken
have
or something.
just recently gotten an Instapot and have learned to thaw my hamburger in it to make something. Or so it is a nice kitchen tool to have.
If you have that.
And you
luxury.
could also use it if you wanted to use those low settings to do
as a crock
a
pot.
crock pot or something. Like I will, defrost the burger and get it all, get the seasonings in, and then turn it down and add the vegetables and make it a crock pot. So they have some cool things.
In the past, we've talked, like when we were talking about decluttering, I think we talked about how like you can set a timer, like the stress of like cleaning, but like if you can set a timer or you're only going to do something for 10 minutes. So like I feel like when you meal plan and you have it already in the fridge, because I know like I get anxiety thinking like, oh, I'm gonna have to cook, like I have to get all these vegetables out, I have to cut them up, and I have
overwhelming.
to do this.
And it's
then I have to wash the dishes, and somebody's like 3 people are going to need something while I'm doing this. But like the thought of it's ready and it's going to take me 10 minutes to dump this in a pan and put a lid on it, and then I'll come stir it a couple of times, and I can still tend to everybody else's needs while this is cooking. Like it's less stressful.
Right. And for me, when I was, had meetings at night, I would plan something that was easy for them to make. So we didn't have to really work hard at that. Now, I will admit we never had the cleanest kitchen.
But you had a loved and used kitchen.
Yeah, but we would, we would clean it, on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about a little bit of my favorite recipes, and you guys can share some of yours. So one of mine that the kids really loved, so this may be something, is you take the inexpensive canned biscuits, quarter them up, stick them in the bottom of a 13x9 pan, and then you take spaghetti sauce or make your own, whatever you like, and ground beef or ground turkey, and mix that together. And then I always threw some pepperoni in too. And if you could get them to eat some veggies, the recipe called for like the bell peppers and the olives and all that, put that in there. You pour that over the biscuits, put mozzarella cheese on top, put it in the oven for like 20 minutes at 350, and it gets all brown and bubbly. And it's called bubble pizza. And we make versions now of bubble pizza without the biscuit dough even. And my family still likes
That way it's
bubble pizza
to make it low carb.
Yes.
Or lower carb.
And so we have and mushrooms and olives and whatever veggies you want in there. So that was always a great go-to for us. You could do it also in a crock pot, but it might be a little gooier.
Yeah.
Well, mine, I think, are the one I was thinking of that came to my mind. It was, it's salsa verde honey lime chicken.
Oh, wow.
I know it's a lot of words, but it's really simple. And it's basically, if you have your chicken frozen or thawed, either way, you can put it in your Instant Pot or in a crock pot. So you'll have to adjust your time. But you do chicken and you season it, salt, pepper, a little garlic powder, onion powder. And then you put some salsa verde, which is the green salsa you buy in a can. Put some of that in, like a small can. And then some honey, about a couple tablespoons. And some lime juice, either fresh or canned. That's another thing. Bottled. That's another thing to have in your pantry. And then you crock pot it or Instant Pot it until
Or use canned chicken.
you can shred it. You could use canned chicken.
And just eat it.
You could. And then you just shred it up, and it's really good with tacos
As
or
a
burritos
filling,
or even as nachos. Or you could just eat the chicken as is, I guess, on a salad.
Yeah.
And it's good also for if you're gluten-free, because you can have the corn tortillas and not have flour tortillas. But I did always love the little street taco flour tortillas.
The little bitty ones.
But
you can eat a
if you're-
dozen of
If you're gluten-free, you need the corn. So, yeah.
Or if you're a diabetic, the corn
And I've
tortillas have a lot less.
Fed that to many people, and they all love it. And you
Sounds
do
like a really
toppings,
good recipe.
however,
I
sour
think my
cream,
canned chicken has found a
salsa.
new friend.
little salsa and little honey lime.
So do you have a favorite recipe you want to share?
I think one that was really easy that we came to later on was getting a bag of slaw mix. So it was either cabbage or broccoli or kale or whatever. And then you would fry up you could do sausage, you could do chicken, and then you would season it with like soy sauce, a little bit of honey, and make it more oriental. And then I would make rice. We always had rice because it was one pot. It was easy. You made it, you boiled it, you turned it off, and it would be done. And this would be coconut rice, and you would serve that over coconut rice. And they all really liked that a lot. Super easy, really fast to come together. And a different flavor profile, especially where we live in the Southwest,
Yeah.
where everything is spicy and chili. This was spicy and Asian. So
My friend makes something like that, but she takes a package of ramen and just like crushes it and dumps it in with the slaw, just because then it's kind of
got a lot of crunch.
little crunch to it.
I've had that.
It's pretty good.
So I thought we would do our food for thought. I had this food for thought, and it's food brings people together, and a family that eats together stays together. So I was thinking when I read that about some of the research I read about how family dinners help kids excel in school and stay out of risky behaviors because you're connecting with your kids. So having this meal and eating together is a good way to do that.
Very good, because you're checking in with your kids. I think too, like the kitchen is where our family always like convened. Like we grew up in this house that had a tiny kitchen, so there's always somebody leaning on every counter space, and you're like, "Move! I need that counter." But that's just where we always hung out. And so when we got our double wide, like I looked for something with the kitchen that was open and had like the island where there's plenty of room for everybody to hang out in that area, and that's still where we all end up leaning against the against the island or something.
Yeah.
Because that's just where we hang out and that's where we connect.
So we spent a lot of time around it was actually an island, either doing schoolwork or working on a project. And we'd always wind up there at the end of the day too, to have dinner with Dad and everybody. And we started a tradition when the girls were maybe in elementary school, and it was called Low Point, High Point. And so everybody, including Mom and Dad, had to say, what was the best thing about your day today?
Ooh.
And what was the thing that was the worst thing about your day? And so that was just really good for us to do as a family. And even though we spent a lot of time together, and I could maybe guess what their low point was, it was just always good to have them be able to have that time to share and express
that.
What had happened
That's
that
a
wasn't so
fantastic
good,
idea.
or what had happened that was like, this really made my day. And it may have been something just really small. And that, of course, that Dad and I had to do that too. And, sometimes they knew that perhaps my interactions with them had been my low point for that day, because homeschooling can be a struggle. But that was something that we did every night. And it was a good time. And I'm not sure, maybe it was Gordon who said, hey, let's do this. And that was just something we did at dinner time. So
Cool.
So because you taught your kids to do that, when I hauled your kids around, we started doing high point, low point on every trip. Like if we were on an overnight trip or even a day trip, whatever meal we had and sat down, we did high point, low point. And it was like, it became such a tradition that like if we were in the Suburbans, like they'd be like, we haven't done high point, low point. Like we'd be like, 5 miles from the school.
Yeah.
Or they'd be like, we'd get out of the Suburban at the school. Everybody real quick, we got to do high point, low point.
That
to
is
talk
so
about.
cool.
And so now I do it with Hollis.
oh, how fun.
But we just do high point right now because he's so little. So what was the best part of your day? So yeah, thanks
Nice.
for that. I do it
Well,
with my
cool.
kid. Thanks to your kid.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I just think it is true that mealtime things around food are very important. And if you think to most any of our family get-togethers, that's the main thing is, what are we going to eat? And so food is such an important part tied to community. So that's why I think that's why that's true. It just makes it very tied to family and community.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So I hope
Sure.
you got some tips today that might help you be ready to feed your family.
in
and
more
be-
ways than one.
Yes, in more ways than one. And be sure to find us on the internet and check out our blog.
And our recipes.
So, because we'll have these recipes plus more
Yes.
for you to look at of quick, easy things that have worked for our family. And thank you for joining us. Be sure to come back next time as we will have a healthy topic to keep your family healthy. An important topic that we'll be discussing next time.
Very good. And be sure to follow us.
Special thanks to our guest contributors, Annie McCauley, Rochelle Moon, Joyce Runyon, and our host, Brenda Bishop. Our podcast crew included the director, Robert F. Hockaday, producers, Robert F. Hockaday and Joyce Runyon. Video crew was Robert F. Hockaday. Music provided by David Morris.
This podcast was made possible by a New Mexico Department of Health Better Together grant. Additional information about today's topic will be on the Health IQ blog located on the Quay County Health Council's website at www.qchealthcouncil.org. Be sure to follow the Quay County Health Council on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Quay County Health. If you have ideas for future podcast topics, be sure to reach out to us at healthiqpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us today. This podcast was created solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for advice from a healthcare or mental health professional.